Yeah, it's all very unintentional too.
Right.
I don't think, when you're growing up, you're like, well, I'm gonna be addicted to heroin and I'm
Right.
gonna, do these things. Like it's one thing leads you to the next, and that's the power of drugs and alcohol. I mean, it just really robs you of who you truly are, your authentic self, and you just get farther and farther and farther away from that as the years go on.
So true. So what did you start or stop doing other than heroin,
Right.
start doing on that day in July that was able to now help you sustain that sobriety?
So I went to a detox, and like I said, it's very fuzzy. The meds that they had me on. I
Right.
mean, I was just wandering down. I was on the second floor, wandering down the steps to get my meds, and basically going back up to my room,
Yeah.
knocked out. But I did a week there ish, maybe 8 days, 9 days, something like
Yeah.
that. And then I went to a very structured, sober living out here in California in Los Angeles.
I love that. I I think it's an uncommon story for people to extended more than maybe 28 days in an inpatient treatment program.
Right.
So it fascinates me people that do like a sober living house or do 18 months or a couple years in a environment that they need. Is that similar to what you did, or how long were you in the sober living house?
I was there for it was a year, maybe
Yeah.
like a week longer than a year. I listen, full disclosure, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. So,
And that's how it happens sometimes. And that's okay, right? If
yeah,
however it
it,
happens.
if I did know it, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Because, when I was talking to my friend, and he was setting this up, he's like, how do you feel about like a little bit of structure? I'm thinking he didn't really go into details.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, hit some meetings, make my bed in the morning. That'd be good.
Right.
And it was way more than that. I mean, it was the first group that I went to, which was the first day that I got there, and I'm still sweaty from the detox, and
Foggy, I'm
yeah,
sure,
just like
not knowing. Yeah.
like my hair's crazy, and
Yeah.
um, you know, it was a lot of peer accountability. So it was a POCO group, a positive and concern
Yep.
group, and I don't know any of these guys yet. It's all male, and didn't know any of these guys, and they're like so and so positive. You got 90 days sober, and then so and so concerned, like you didn't make your bed yesterday,
Yeah.
or you popped off on the house manager or whatever. And I'm just
Right.
like, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. It's like, are we trying to start with people, or like
Right.
what's going on here?
Well, and I think that that's always been the thing for me is I'm kind of a live and let live person. You do your thing, I'll do mine. As long as we don't get in each other's way, we're cool. And this is one of the benefits that I really got out of this place is when you care about people, you call them on their
Yeah,
shit.
it's true.
And I think that's important for us, for sure. Is that,
Yeah.
but it was
And
uncomfortable for a while.
it can teach you how to have those conversations in a productive way.
Well, and I think that there's a difference between doing it out of love and care, and doing
True.
it in a negative or mean way,
Yeah.
just to call somebody out. So that
Right.
was really stressed there. It's like it's got to be constructive. Like, okay, if you're going to concern somebody, what's the solution?
Right.
It's not just ripping people apart, and you got 10 guys just confronting each other at the dinner table. It's
Yeah.
like, what's the solution? And that's really one of the things that I've learned in recovery is what is the solution? Like, do we stay in the problem or do we get into the solution?
Hmm. Yeah. So tell me what the transition was like coming out of that environment that was sort of protected and then almost being left to your own devices, right? In the real world. What was that like?
So I kind of got half the experience because they ended up giving me a job uh,
At the place?
at the place about 9 months, 10 months in, started driving guys around,
Yeah.
taking them to meetings and appointments and all this stuff. So when I left, we got an apartment and you had to move out with somebody else. In order to graduate the program, you had to have your living situation lined up with somebody else who was graduating the program, right?
Got it.
So it was a cool setup. So me and a buddy of mine moved out, got the apartment set up, and then the next morning I'm back
Working.
at working. So I think staying in that environment, because I can disappear pretty quickly. Like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. The year was good. Thanks,
Peace.
guys. Well, I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
And I think I actually worked for them for almost 4 years.
Wow, that's
Uh,
great.
yeah, it was cool. And I think staying in that community,
For sure.
really, working in treatment can be, a little dicey
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. But I think staying in that community really helped me out. And I think that's part of why I stayed sober, being involved with those guys.
There's a sense of accountability, right? That you're
100%.
showing up there every day for these guys.
Right. 100%.
Yeah,
And that's really when you know, make the transition from what am I getting out of it to what am I bringing, to it, I think is important.
for
You
sure.
know, I had gotten what I had gotten, needed to get out of it. Even halfway, that was kind of the motto halfway through the program. The first 6 months is for you, the second 6 months is for them. So the guys who are coming in, it's really like a lot of, brothers keepers. So you're looking after the guys who are coming in. They have like a big brother system
Got it.
to where, so somebody comes, you're responsible for this person for 2 weeks. It was dope. It was cool.
Yeah, that's
Teaches you all kinds of things that I didn't really think about, because we're selfish, we're self-centered and selfish. And the only thing that,
absolutely
and even in sobriety,
me,
trust
me.
me,
Yeah,
100%. It's not like I did that and all the selfishness and self-centeredness went away. Like that's something that I have to still work on every day, is like focusing out instead of on myself.
so with this sort of ability to recognize those things in ourselves, the selfishness or perhaps dishonesty. In my case, I find myself
Sure.
still lying to people for no reason.
Right.
So it's something I'm working on continually. As you look back in sort of early life, have you been able to identify things that maybe you think contributed to the next level of addiction? Are there things in your past that you have identified?
And we hear this a lot growing up, uncomfortable in my own skin,
Yeah,
socially, just, alcohol and drugs gave me that sense of ease and comfort where I felt like, and that's the crazy part, is you feel like you can be yourself
yeah.
more, but it's really not, you know what I mean?
It's creating this different person. It's almost like it's not yourself. For me, it wasn't myself. It was
Right.
it was a character really
Right.
that I was able to play on these stages that I went
Right.
out on.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that my use progressed, the progression from drinking and weed and some LSD in high school to some coke, right after high school, and then some pills a couple years after that. I had lost a couple of friends in a car crash, and that was in high school, and that's really when the drinking kind of took another turn to where it was just like, instead of partying on the weekends where I would just close my eyes and pound booze, that's when I really used it as a thing to not deal with what was going on. And then the drinking stopped working, in the sense that I was so hungover all the time, so sick all the time, could not function. I was not a functioning alcoholic by any means. I wasn't going to work the next day. I just, I know some people that can get away with that. I couldn't. So when I found the pills, this will date me, but the
Yeah.
oxys back in like 2005,
Yeah.
that was something I was like, oh, I'm not hungover. I didn't know anything about, withdrawals or anything like that at that point. But I was like, I found the new
The
thing.
miracle pill.
Right. But I think, like, I never really liked confrontation. I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. I didn't want anybody to ever know that I had problems at all. So I would
Yeah.
always try to lie and mask all of those things too. Very just sort of timid and kind of scared to go through life
Yeah. Same.
without drugs and alcohol.
Very similar story. Yeah.
So that gave me the courage. And then, you look back on it, you're like, it's all false.
Right.
It's fake courage. It's fake relationships. Everything is just smoke and mirrors. It's all BS.
Totally true. Yeah. It's almost just delaying learning how to deal with those things and delaying building that real true sense of confidence and courage, because
100%.
after then rehab and detox, I felt like I was this, 17, 18-year-old kid who
Right.
had never learned how to deal with things
Right.
or knew what feelings or emotions were associated with what behaviors or actions. So really for me it was just literally delaying that for a good 2 decades.
How long did you find for it to come back, for you to where you're like, okay, I'm kind of getting the hang of this a little bit.
Yeah, I would say, and it was in the rooms of a 12-step program a lot in early recovery. And I would
Right.
say I attribute that, throwing myself into groups of people and forcing myself to talk and share and things at meetings was a huge contribution to that. But I would say probably almost a year at
Yeah.
least. Yeah.
Checks out. And
I'm
it's an ongoing process too, right?
right. It's funny that this kind of naturally came up. I was recording an intro to another episode before we got on here, and I was referring back to this and saying that it's like a muscle too. If I am not working on that sort of interactive and like social side of myself, I feel
Right.
like it's a muscle that can atrophy. And
Right.
so it's like almost something I have to continually keep up on
Right.
and always be like exercising my social muscle.
Sure.
Because the first time I start like canceling plans or saying no to someone who invites me to dinner, it's like a vicious cycle. And I find myself like, oh, here I am isolating myself again before I know it. And
Right.
it's been 6 months before I've been social with somebody.
Right.
So I still, after I just celebrated 7 years last week and
Oh,
still
great.
have to consciously focus on that regularly.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot to focus on, and that's the funny thing about it. That whether the disease, lower self,
Yeah.
the darkness, whatever you want, is always going to be there to kind of try to lure you back in to that temporary comfort zone of
Right.
like it's comfortable temporarily to isolate yourself, or it's easier to not put yourself out there. The easier, softer way, right? If we
Yep.
follow those things, it's a path back to where we were. And if you do the contrary action, the opposite, it's the pathway out of that. But it's very persuasive and makes sense. A
Yes.
lot, a lot, a lot of times you're like, I can rationalize this. Like, I don't want to go out tonight. I don't,
Right.
and
Yeah.
like you said, it turns in 6 months later. You're like,
Fuck, I've not been out of the house.
right,
Yeah.
right,
Oh, I'm the fantastic rationalizer to myself too. So
right,
that's a problem.
right,
But like I said in the beginning, it's conversations like these and things that I can expose myself to and dive into that are such a help to my own recovery. I'm blessed in the fact that I can help other people through this podcast, but I am
right.
still working on myself daily for sure.
100%. And we always will be, I
Yeah.
think. I mean, that's really like a life or death thing for us is, the minute you stop, and it's, I used to hear things like that, and I'm like, I got to work on myself like every day, where it's like I'm going to spend 8 hours a day working on myself. But
Yeah.
there's so many little things that you can do on a daily basis. Reach out to a friend, do a nightly review,
Yes.
and these things are such a small time investment sometimes, but the returns are so big.
For sure.
It's not like you got to spend hours and hours a day doing
Right.
it.
And to your point, I think even if I have every goal on my list checked off, I want to continue to improve and continue to better myself. So even those small things are they count just as much too. So I love the nightly review. I do that
Yeah.
regularly.
Have you ever messed with the app? There's like the 10
Yes.
7. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's pretty
Super
cool.
helpful.
Doesn't get any easier than that.
I know,
Just pull up
right?
the ding, ding, ding,
Yep.
type it all in. Yeah, it's pretty dope.
For sure. Well, speaking of that, that's a good sort of takeaway, tangible item for our listeners. Is the one that I use is I think Step 10, 11 app or something it's
Mm.
called. But what are some takeaways or tangible items that you could offer our listeners as a recovery tool?
So one of the things beyond, 12 step, that's helped me, and really has kind of changed my life is the fitness aspect. I think for me, it's very important, to be moving, to be active, because what's the saying? You put down the spoon, you pick up the fork.
Yeah,
That was me. So I had, this spiritual experience, and I had been working in it and helping guys and going through my own process. But I looked in the mirror, and I was 41 at the time, and I'm like, and I felt physically just not good, eating, whatever. And it's first things first,
right.
right? You don't want to get sober and, 2 weeks later you're like, now I'm going on this fitness journey. I
Right.
really believe there's a time and a place.
Definitely.
Even though I wish I would have started it a little bit earlier, it happened when it happened. But I do believe, like, really focusing on your diet, your nutrition, your fitness, has changed my life and really has enhanced, my sobriety. Getting out there, maybe getting a gym membership, that has been huge for me. It's the way I start my day. It really makes me able to see problems and things correctly, just exerting that energy physically, getting those endorphins kicking, has
Right.
been a game changer for me,
Do you
um,
find yourself as more of like, because you're in California, are you a
mhm.
outdoorsy hiker or in the gym sort of with weights or a good mix of both?
I would say more gym and weights. We go hiking out here.
Yeah.
My version of hiking is a paved
Right.
incline,
Yeah.
nothing too crazy, with some scenery, but like sunlight for sure. And I think that's
Yes.
probably one of the things that I take for granted out here. We were chatting before
Yeah.
the show started about living in Ohio for those 5 or 6 months of
It's tough.
gray. It's tough, man, and it gets to a point out here where it's like, man, this thing is just in your face
Yeah.
every day. But it's very important. All of those things, like getting outside, getting fresh air, going for a walk, and just, those things all help me.
Yeah.
Um, and I think exploring, my recovery didn't end with AA. My search, for spirituality didn't end there. So I think really, if something resonates with you in your heart, you should explore it. If you hear somebody, who's got a good message, follow them on Instagram. If there's
Yeah.
a book that, so I always try to be learning and taking in different things. You know, because I for a while, the rigidity of the 12 step, it was like, this is it. It starts here and it ends
Yes.
here.
Yep.
And I don't want to say I've outgrown it, because that's not the right word, but I've expanded on it, you know.
Mike,
Um,
we're like in the same lane because it was about a year and a half ago that I came to that realization. And it's almost scary for me to say it
uh-huh,
because those rooms saved my life. And I have so
100%.
much respect for that program and the people that I love and met there and are still in close contact with.
100%.
But to your point, yeah, I don't think outgrow is the right word. I think I'm adding to my
Right.
library or I'm adding to my toolkit, as we
Right.
say,
Right.
and expanding upon that. So I love that you brought that up.
And I found myself, and this is me. This isn't that program. This
Yeah.
is, me, that where I was being very rigid. You're not doing it right,
Yeah.
and I've got this thing that this is how it's supposed to be done. And if they don't want to do 12 step, well, good luck. Like,
Right.
you're,
There's
and
no other
the
way.
reality is, yeah, the reality is a lot of people don't, and they're not going to. So how do those people get served?
Exactly.
you know yeah. And listen, the last, when I started, my coach, who took me through this fitness plan, because so I ended up dropping 50 pounds in 6 months, got in the best shape of my life.
Nice.
And this man's message is all about conscience congruence.
Mm.
He's a convict who did 10 years in California prison, and he's, got this program on Instagram. But really, it helped me interpret the 12 step better. So I always got kind of caught up in God's will, right? Especially, well, how do I know what God's will is? And how do I know it's not this,
Right.
like, and really I was waiting for uh, some big message or aha thing for God to speak to me and let me know what it is. But it's really all the little things. You know, I think when you get some clarity, when you have a little bit of time sober, that voice in your head, if you really followed that every day and did everything that it told you to do, your life would be, it would
Whew.
change drastically,
Yeah.
but we
Yeah.
don't, we bring our feelings into it. It's like, Nate, go out, call your friends, go
Right.
out. It's like, no,
No,
I'm just
you
gonna
don't
stay.
need to do that. Don't worry
Right.
about that.
And that's Nate,
Yep. Yep.
and that's Mike when it's like, get up early, go to the gym. Like, no, I think I just want to lay here for another hour. We always you're being guided all day long by your conscience. The authentic voice of God is what I've come to
Mm.
understand it as. And if you really follow all of that, the steps that it's telling you to do, all those intuitions, those ideas that pop in your head that we don't act on. For you, it could be maybe ideas for your podcast that you're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'll come here, and you forget about it and
Yeah.
whatever. But if you really just took all those things and acted on it, what I found is it's drastically changed my life.
Mike, where can people find you online if they want to work with you or just if they've been inspired by your message today?
So at MikeJelinek on Instagram, Mike
Nice.
Jelinek on Facebook. I'm in the works of putting together a website right now, and
Nice.
things like that. But yeah,
I
so
will. I'll link your Instagram handle in the show notes today, and we'll do a little bio on Mike if you want to check him out, or if, like I said, if you've been inspired by his message today. I think it's a powerful message, and like I said, finding our own niche and being able to apply it to our recovery. In your case, the fitness thing, I think is so powerful and so special, and not many people are blessed with that. So thanks for sharing your story today, buddy.
hey, thanks for having me on. It was great meeting you.
You too. Thank you so much for listening today, friends. Hopefully you heard something that resonates with you, and if we help just one person, our job is done. Make sure you check today's show notes for all the information discussed in the episode and how to connect with our guest. And as always, check us out at thesobrietydiaries.com, youtube.com/Nate Kelly, and on Instagram at the Sobriety Diaries Pod. Please head over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show, friends. It truly helps other people to find the show, and in turn, we can help more people. Until next Wednesday, try your best not to drink and be good to yourselves. Bye, everyone.